Hey, Lake Wales. How you doing? This is Catherine Price, one of the three little ladies.
Hi, Juanita Zwarchuk, another little lady. Glad to be here today.
And I'm Charlene Bennett, happy to be one of the three little ladies, or we could call ourselves the three wise women.
Well, I think there may be some names that people are coming up with us now that I don't know. What some of them may be less complimentary than others. Some people like it though. What we're doing. I've gotten a lot of people speaking to me at parties and out in the community. That are really happy about what we're doing.
Yeah, I've had good feedback too. I think Juanita has also.
I have too, and not only that, but we're getting good feedback on everywhere that we post it. Lots of good feedback. So,
well, I think that we're giving people information that's really helpful to them.
Yes.
We may be a little dishing a little bit, but I think that we have to make it at least interesting for me and fun, or I couldn't keep this pace up. It's like, I don't know about you, but it's a little exhausting,
Yeah. So what are we talking about today?
Well, I thought we'd go back and talk a little bit about what I'm calling the secret meeting. I think that is, on February 22nd, on Thursday, it was like 3:30 in the afternoon. They sent out a notice from the city that they would have a meeting the next day at the new Lake Wales Health and Recreation Center, the old YMCA, at 9:00 the next morning on Friday. They had a 4-hour meeting. There was just a couple of things on the agenda, but apparently there was a lot more that was discussed than was just what was on the agenda. The 4-hour meeting and a lunch. So, and I think, have you listened to the whole thing, Charlene, or just Juanita?
No, I only listened to 2 hours of it. Juanita got all 4, I think.
Yeah. I broke it up. I listened to 2 and then lunch and the rest. Yeah.
You're tougher than me. I've had a lot going on, and 4 hours is a commitment of time, well, tell us, Juanita, how we even found out that there had been a meeting on Friday. Well, nobody knew.
I was very busy on Friday morning, and later on, I believe it was late in the afternoon, I looked and I saw, oh, look at all these texts, these Twitters from the city of Lake Wales. The tweets were numerous. And then I saw, whoa, there's like 30 of them. And I started reading them and realized from those tweets that there must have been a big meeting that we were all unaware of. And that's, I started, I called you, I called Charlene, I said, did you know about any meeting? And that's how it all kind of began. It was the tweets.
Well, and there's no video. Most city commission meetings are held at their chambers and they have a videotape, but there's no video equipment at the that facility.
So what is that facility? It isn't. They had a lot of background noise at the beginning because that's a place where, a lot of people are bouncing balls and using machines and such. So it sounded to me on the audio like that was not a great place to have a meeting like that anyway. I wonder why they chose that.
That is the obvious question. Why did they have a meeting so scantily announced and at a place that wasn't very appropriate, not the usual place? If I say that it almost looks like they were trying to avoid us, there would be somebody would say that was an accusation, but it certainly makes you wonder.
Yeah.
Right. I was trying to pull up that agenda from that meeting because I think that there was just a couple of things on the agenda, but apparently from their tweets and I guess from listening to it, we know that there was quite a bit more discussed. I don't know if that was did they add things to the agenda or did they just talk about them, Juanita?
One thing just flowed into the other. I wasn't actually looking at the agenda when I listened to them. Rally.
they didn't add anything to the agenda. I mean, like formally anybody, when they say, does somebody want to add something to agenda, they didn't do that. Things just flowed one from the other, didn't they, Juanita?
They did, yeah.
So the two things on the agenda seem to be this new, what they're calling traditional neighborhood ordinance. And then they did a presentation on their, I guess, their PDP, plan development project ordinance, or I don't know, it's a presentation, I'm assuming, by Autumn Cocello about what they're doing and what they want to do or something.
Yeah, those are two new ordinances that she has written, and very well written, I have to say. I think she's done an excellent job of putting them together. Whether or not we fully agree with it all is another question. But I don't know when they're going to come up on a city commission agenda. And I don't know if they're going to first come up on a planning and zoning board agenda. I think maybe that's what will happen. So we need to keep our eyes out for the P&Z agendas.
Planning and zoning board. Yeah. We can't use that kind of stuff in these things because people don't understand all the acronyms.
Well, I think that it's kind of interesting to note that this was the first time that the public would be aware of these two new, whatever they're called, ordinances.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
And, but nobody knew about the meeting. So they had,
I don't know if there was anybody present from the public at that meeting.
Yeah, a lot of discussion on it, and yet there was no input from the public, certainly, and not we didn't even know about it, So, yeah.
And certainly did not hear their discussion of it.
No. So in my opinion, the two ordinances are excellent as they stand. I mean, they're well written, they make a lot of sense. But there's a big question in my mind because one of them, the PDP, Plan Development Project, has public hearing attached to it. So it would always come before the public. But the T&D one, traditional neighborhood, is not slated. It is supposed to be so concise and precise that nobody can deviate from it. Therefore, saying yes or no to it would be just a simple administrative procedure. But that means that the public would never have a say, get even a glimpse at any proposed T&D because there would be no public hearings. I think that is just not right.
Well, especially Lake Alta. I mean, they consider that very close to being a T&D, although they were not proposing it as a T&D. If that's what they consider a T&D, giving away a park, then I would like to make sure that any T&D they want to put forward would have some public input, because otherwise they could be giving away things and with no public input.
Well, and there's a lot of different issues that could come up in a planning and zoning board meeting, connectivity to sidewalks, parks, location and proximity to other things. I mean, there's so many issues that a community and people that live around a potential community might want to talk about before it's passed, that it seems kind of crazy to just have no process. I mean, it seems to me like almost like trying to pull it under the cover of darkness so that they don't have to deal with anybody's questions or challenges. And I'm sure when we do this, everything will be a T&D.
Yeah. It's not right.
No, it's not right. And it's dangerous for the community, I think. In the meeting, I did hear, and I don't know, since you're the expert on this one, Juanita, they talked about Lake Alta Park, right?
Yes, they did. Yeah.
Tell us what they said about that.
Oh, gee. To tell you the truth, I really wish I had listened to it again before we started talking about this, because I cannot remember everything that they said, Catherine, but I do know that they spoke in depth about it and about how definitely, it seemed to me that they definitely were all together for taking over that park as part of whatever they're going to do with it.
Well, and I know that in the tweet, and I didn't know if it was confirmed through you listening, Robin Gibson said something to the effect that the people just don't understand what's going on with this.
That was mentioned a couple of times, and it always was mentioned when it was something that the community might not agree with. It's like, well, they don't agree with this, but they don't understand what a T&D,
To me, that was the big
neighborhood development is, you know? And it's like, I would just like to point out that not understanding something doesn't, not agreeing with something does not mean not understanding. It just means not agreeing.
Yeah, that was the big takeaway of that meeting for me, that several of the commissioners spoke about the fact that the public doesn't seem to understand. One of them said that they just want to stop development, which is, I'm sure that part of the public would like to stop development, but I think they were implying that people like us wanted to stop development. They have no evidence for saying anything like that, but they just seemed to. I mean, I thought they sort of infantilized the public, that we're people that just don't understand things. If we just understood how the commissioners, know better and are doing everything right, then that problem would be solved. Well, if they think that there are things that we don't understand, one of the takeaways from that is that they're not communicating to us what it's all about. So this brings us back to that matter of adequate communication between the public and the city.
Well, they also, they didn't give any credit to the fact that the community participated in everything that was finally agreed to on the Envision plan. I mean, I know I went to like at least 4 meetings, and there were a lot of people there, and they referred to it as a small group of people that don't agree. And I didn't see a small group. I saw a large group at those meetings. And, you know, I doubt very much that the issue, the problem is that people don't understand. That is, I don't think that's what's going on.
Well, but particularly with regard to this Lake Alta Park project, I spent like a week asking repeatedly for public records requests, trying to figure out exactly what the timeline was for this project, which was very complicated, by the way, and it was not in any way transparent or shown to the public. I made sort of a timeline, and I even, and that timeline was, I gave it to the Planning and Zoning Board. And I think that's part of what threw the Planning and Zoning Board into consternation, is because a lot of this information was not provided to them by the city staff. And I think they were a little bit taken aback at some of the weird stuff that had happened with that project that had not been divulged to them.
I also going to the Planning and Zoning meeting. They had people from the community there. They had from the immediate neighborhood and from the community at large. And it needed to be pointed out to them and to the commissioners that just because you don't live around the block from this particular thing, it doesn't mean you're not part of the community that's going to be affected by it. That's another thing that they don't seem to, you know, take into consideration. We all own that park. We all are involved in every development, whether we live right next to it or not. As long as we're a taxpayer, we are involved.
And another point to be made here is that the Planning and Zoning Board has twice turned down this project. And yet the commission was talking about it as if it's a done deal. They're, you know, and
they're like, it's like a bunch of water buffaloes. They're like circling circling the wagons to protect this project. And, you know, it's being done under this community redevelopment agency, which to me is a little bit of a rub, because in my mind, cramming 24 or 28 cottages on an 8.5, acre piece of property that used to be City Park, by the way, that was City Park too. is not necessarily going to improve the quality and the value of the homes around it. If anything, it has a potential to deteriorate and destroy property values. And so they're treating this as if this is some kind of redevelopment project and in-building and all this. And I don't understand why they want to go right now. That 1.5 acres is zoned for 6 units, which I think if you want to justify, I think it possibly you could justify 6 units, not 24 or 28. And they've cut down the setbacks and everything to the point that I think if they can put a front porch on those houses, it's going to be just a facade of a front porch.
Mm-hmm.
There's very little place for people to park or for kids to play, and
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of crazy. I don't understand. That property was zoned and permitted for 6 sewer and water hookups. There's 14 up there now, and with plans to put in more. I don't know how that happened before that. They claim that the city stopped it, but somehow they allowed that to happen.
Well, there's an implication too that if for instance, a person like me, right, a taxpayer, doesn't agree with this particular project, that we just don't understand infill and we don't agree with infill. I personally would like to say that I think infill is a great. I just think that infill should be appropriate for the surrounding, right, and it certainly should not involve giving away incentives that are not necessary to give away to have someone develop on it. That's my opinion. I don't the rest of you agree with me on that.
Yeah.
But
Well,
Absolutely.
I think there's a real danger with this CRA money that it becomes like giving away things to special people, and I think these CRA projects are really dangerous in some sense. Philosophically, and it sounds like a good idea, but when it really comes down to it, it starts to get a little bit wiggy because they're giving things to people and you're like, why is this being given to this person like that? I think that we need to be careful with how that we proceed with this. And now the city wants to do this big CRA expansion, which the county's not happy about. And, I'm just, as a citizen, like if they can't manage the contracts they're putting through the CRA better than they're doing right now, I'm a little dubious about them getting more money in there.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. But I would like to, before we leave it, go back to that secret meeting, because there were a couple of things that were interesting to me, that when they were saying a variety of things, suggesting that the people didn't understand, that the people were agitators, that we were just we were not behaving appropriately. Commissioner Gibson made the comment that, well, that's what keeps us honest, or something like that. And then I would like to give credit to Commissioner Thompson, who said at some length that he thinks that the people need more help in understanding things, that they need to know more, but that also that what maybe is being considered agitators, or I'm not sure what word he used, but the people who are saying these things are in greater numbers than the commissioners think, because they kept talking about it's a small minority of people who don't represent the community. And he said, I think there's a lot more people out there than we're acknowledging that have concerns. And so somehow he's been picking that up better than the others.
Well, it's an appropriate time to encourage anyone who's listening that it really does make a difference to go down and have your say at these meetings. They're forced to listen, quite honestly, and they're forced to acknowledge that there are people out there that, have something to say about this, and they should listen. And it doesn't always need to be the same 5 people or so who do it. Even though a lot of us feel we're representing people who have spoken to us about these issues, it's much more effective to have people come down there in numbers. It just makes it.
Well, and I think one of the reasons we're doing this Three Little Ladies, like we do, I don't know about y'all, but I've spent a lot of time trying to research. I don't like to just speak off the cuff, and not know what I'm talking about. Now, occasionally I might not have complete information when I speak, but I try not to speak irresponsibly. And I think both of y'all are the same way. And so we're not just blowing smoke here. I mean, these are things that we've actually researched. And one reason we're doing this podcast is to try to share that information because, you're working, you have a couple of kids, or, you're not used to trying to work with government. I mean, I've spent a lot of time just trying to figure out how to get agendas out of the city, how to get, different information. I mean, it's not easy to figure it out. And when they talk disparagingly about people just not having information to understand, well, no, most of us are not going to every single meeting that's held at the city, and we're not involved in interior conversations that are going on, and we're not involved in staff decisions and all this stuff.
Yeah. Well, when you take everything put together, the way the meetings are organized, so that citizens can't have interchange and can only and have limited input, etc. When you take that together with the comments that are made about the way citizens participate, and that the original efforts that were made by Mayor Hilligoss and followed by the others to limit participation, the whole message that comes across to all the citizens is that they don't really want to hear from us because we don't really count, because we don't know as much as they do, et cetera, et cetera. I don't think they understand how much of their behavior sends that particular message.
And people should know that every single one of those commissioners has an email address, at the city hall. And if you can't make it to a meeting to say your mind, you can do it through an email, or you can do it through a good old letter, or you can do it through a phone call, or you can do it by answering some of the tweets that come every
Well,
time.
and remember, there's an election coming up. We have 2 of the seats. Danny Krieger's seat, which is number 4, is up, and he's running against Carol Gillespie in that seat. And then we have number 2, seat 2, which is Daniel Williams, and he's running against Brandon Alvarado and Crystal Higbee. So people have a choice, if they want to make choices here, and it's time. Like the vote by mail ballots are already out right now, and the final voting day at City Hall, I think, will be April 2nd. I think they also have a poll out at Lake Ashton this year.
Yes.
Place there, yeah.
I wanted to bring up one last thing. Juanita had seen some things on Facebook, and kind of piqued my interest and Juanita's interest with regard to, we're talking about contracts under the Community Redevelopment Agency, the CRA, and the big one is that Park Avenue redesign, where they've gone in there and torn out everything and built the new streetscape down there in front of the post office. And so, do you want to speak a minute, Juanita?
I do, because I want to preface what I'm saying by, really saying out loud that I think that the Lake Wales Connect is a wonderful idea. And I'm really excited about being able shortly, hopefully in a few months, to sit in front of some of those restaurants who, by the way, please, people go and buy from them now, even though it's a little bit difficult. But I'm looking forward to sitting there with a nice glass of wine and having that wonderful streetscape. The only thing is, there seems to be a few issues with the work that's being done down there. And I noticed on Facebook that someone had put a picture of some of the brickwork. And I did go down there last night myself. I took a walk because I don't want to just go by somebody's picture. And I was really, really concerned about what's happening to some of the bricks. Catherine, you have a lot more to say about that, right?
Well, not a lot, but I did go down there this morning as well. because of what you had said yesterday. And now I have some concerns too. And I think that this is something that needs to be discussed. Let me show, I'm going to try to show some pictures that some of them are your pictures and some of them are mine. And let me see that this is the first time I've ever done this on this program. So let's try this screen sharing thing. Okay. All right. Can y'all see that?
Yeah, it's not large enough to.
Okay, wait just a second. Let me get the pictures up. I got to get photos up here. Okay, here's the Park Avenue project. All right.
There you go.
Can you see that?
Yes.
Yeah.
So this shows, a lot of these oaks that are being planted down have been planted in, a lot of the oaks look really nice. They're starting to leaf out, which is really positive. But there's a problem here in this crosswalk that's right at the corner of First Street and Park Avenue there. Apparently there's been some damage there that was not repaired particularly well. You want to talk about that, Juanita?
Well, that area is really very obvious. I mean, you can't miss the problem there. But when you start walking around, if you can even notice around it, it seems like there's a lot of gap in between all of the bricks. And there's so much gap that it's leaves and debris are getting in between. And my question is should there be something in there to fill in? It looks to me like tiles without grout.
Well, it really is. And this looks like sand that's somehow gotten, it's like there's a sunken area there. And then there's this repair work does not look, I'm going to go back to that one. I'm kind of flipping around here, but this is just kind of not really good repair work that's been done on this little crosswalk area. Also, when we were down there this morning, I was down there, these grates where the water is supposed to be going into this storm drainage is blocked. And it's just, there's sitting water in about 3 of the grates. So I don't understand what's going on under the road, but these were all full of water. Now, this is some of the other area where you were talking about a problem.
Right. Yeah. Well, when I parked my car in front of the post office and I got out, I noticed that there were a lot of cracked bricks. I can't point because I don't have the pointer, but you can see areas where, they've obviously cracked down towards, right, there you go. And this is, what's it only been about, not even 3 months, I don't think, since people have been allowed to park their cars there. What's going to happen, after a year or so? It just looks like something that needs attention. And
these are some of them that are just totally cracked in half.
Yeah, I'd like to respond to the issue of the lack of grout. As I understand it, this is the way they do pavers now, that they do it without grout. However, it's my understanding also that it requires very skilled work. The bed has to be laid absolutely perfectly and solidly in order for all that to keep the bricks from slipping and moving about. And it looks like maybe they have been slipping and moving about, which leads to some of the cracking. So I don't know. I think
see these little pieces here?
Yeah.
There is nothing holding them in there.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure how that works, but they did this really detailed work, but then it's just like all it would take is just a little bit to flip these things out of there. It was a little disturbing, to be honest.
Yeah. And I don't know the proper way to do it, but I do recognize when something isn't right.
Yeah.
I
think that this is something that just needs, the city needs to be down there looking at this. There was also, I was a little bit concerned about some of these crepe myrtles that were in front of the liquor store. And I'm also concerned about these date palms that they put in there. Date palms are not a good choice because they're very susceptible to a disease called It's called lethal bronzing. And pretty soon these trees will get this and will die. So they should not have planted date palms in our streetscapes.
Well, date palms are not native to this area anyway. It's something that shouldn't be planted, period.
Well, and they can also, when the little insects that carry the lethal bronzing chew on the tree, they can also, I wanted to show you, like we have, let me go over here to the Stewart Avenue area. We have a lot of our native palms. This is Stewart Avenue. This was put in about 15 years ago. So we have a nice, some nice trees in this area. We also have some of our nice native palms on Central Avenue. And those trees are also, not all of them, but some of them susceptible to the lethal bronzing. And it would be nice to not have these sick trees close to healthy native palms as well. This is another little picture of some of the stuff on Stewart Avenue, which maybe needs to be changed. There was one other thing pictures that I wanted to talk about, and that was down at Lake Wales, at the pump station down below. This has been this way for about 6 months with all of this netting, and the fence is down. I think this is a new pump that's been put down there, but there's a problem with it because it's on a pad that's too small. And the pad is starting to deteriorate underneath this big pump. Also, the pump is not locked, so anybody could theoretically just open the pump. So some of us that live down there are just concerned that this thing has looked like this for 6 months. And we feel like that there needs to be a little more attention to this. So I think this sort of falls in the pattern of having concerns about, contract management and that type of thing. And we need accountability on the part of contractors when they're coming into the city and spending a lot of our money, because both of these projects, the pump station and this one with the, if there's problems with it's huge number of bricks out there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, ladies, we've gone beyond 30 minutes here. So have we said everything we need to say today?
Get out and vote. I say vote.
I agree. Be
Yes.
heard.
And I really appreciate y'all doing this. This is a labor of love for the community. I know, people probably think we're just a bunch. I'm becoming a curmudgeon, to tell you the truth.
Well,
Nothing wrong with that.
No. And anyway, y'all have a great day.
yeah.
Thank you.
With age comes wisdom.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
See you soon. Bye-bye.